Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective. Good afternoon, everybody on the East Coast. Good morning to everybody else out there. My name is Justin Fensterman, and welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by the good old FG, FantasyGuru.com, where you can find all of my work. I'm the lead NBA analyst. I also do some football work, too, and as always, the playoff action just keeps rolling. It's great to be with everybody out there. Going to be a lot of basketball coverage, a little bit of football coverage too. Got Armando Marsal on. You normally catch Armando on with Ray. Also, he joins me to talk some basketball on Wednesdays. But because we've got the NFL draft coming up and we've got all your coverage at FantasyGuru.com, he's also going to talk about some of these draft prospects along with me. So it's going to be a great show. Great time to be a sports fan. Great time to win. A lot of sports in motion. Playoff contests still going on. We've got our write-ups still rocking and rolling for NBA in the postseason at FantasyGuru.com. Also, I'll say this, for the hockey side of it as well, Jorge Pucks and crew doing a great job from the NHL, the Stanley Cup betting, and also DFS too. So I'm going to be talking about today about playoff betting. I've been asked a few questions about it in our Discord at Fensty, by the way, Fensty in our Discord at fantasyguru.com, on X and Instagram at Fensty Sports, Fensty Sports. And you can normally catch me on the Elite Sports Game Time show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. However, program note, I talked about it a lot last night. The channel is going to be doing a lot of football coverage on the radio during that time, including Jeff Mans will be on Thursday and Friday, helping out with all of the NFL coverage, breaking it down from a fantasy football perspective. So Ray Flowers and I, who host the show, will be off tonight, tomorrow, and Friday. We'll be back on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern to recap this draft, some interesting picks right there, and to talk about the baseball and the basketball throughout and keep you up to date on all of the live action. So this is where I'm still going to be talking about basketball. Going to talk about why I look at some of the players I look at when it comes to betting. Been asked a lot about whether or not to start going after those studs versus going after the B and C list players that we've been rocking and rolling with for the most part this year. So that is what I'm going to be talking about before Armando stops by to talk a little DFS for the night slate. The reason, by the way, I keep the sheet up like this is because you never know who's tuning in when. So maybe even if you have just a few minutes to hang with me, and it's great being with all of you as I am every single Wednesday, some of you then can see very quickly what we're talking about. That way you don't have to play catch up. Then if you say, oh, Armando's coming on, then Armando will come on. You'll know where to go with Armando normally halfway through. So that's why I like to keep the sheet up like this so you can kind of see what I'm talking about as I'm discussing. Tony, it is great to see you. Of course, great to see everybody out there. We're doing a great job when it comes to the betting. Very profitable night last night. And that's why for those that maybe want to get into placing bets a little bit more, we have our betting package. I know I talk about the VIP Platinum package where you get everything, but if you want access to our betting content, sign up for the month at $60, our betting package, and you get access to all of our bets on the various sports, and you just try it for the month at $60. And then if you're hitting like we were hitting in NBA last night, it pays for itself on night one, and everything else is just house money and your subscription already paid for. So last night had a very good night. Was it a crushing the lines night? Nope, but a win is a win. So we went 3-0. Also, Jeff Vance hitting a very nice parlay. I say it all the time, and this is a good place to talk about it with NBA betting, and that's when you're parlaying for NBA, it's much better to do it on the alt lines. And that's what Jeff's been doing, very profitable doing it. I've been doing it a little bit this year. If I find situations where the couple of matchups we have on a given night aren't very appealing, then maybe I'll go for the alt line parlay if I like something. I don't force bets up there. I don't. And some of these series are very hard to read. As you can see what's going on with the scoring updates of these series themselves. Tonight we've got 3 games. We've got Cleveland and Miami. We've got Boston and Orlando. And we also have the Warriors and the Rockets. And the big piece of news that we're all going to be waiting on here for a while is Jayson Tatum. And again, I'm on the write-up tonight. So I'll have my DFS NBA write-up over at fantasyguru.com. I kind of give a series synopsis up to that point, what's been going on, which players have been featured a little bit more. And a big note, and luckily for us, it's not the late game. If this were Steph Curry, we'd have to probably plan like Steph Curry wasn't playing. But this is the playoffs. And even though Jayson Tatum hurt his wrist and apparently has some kind of bone bruise there, he's still able to play, and he was still able to play last game. So I'm kind of thinking that might still, even though he's listed as doubtful, even if he is a smokescreen out there, just moving the ball around, not really shooting as much unless open, I still see scenarios where he plays tonight. So you kind of make a decision, and I've already made the decision from the strategy standpoint to look a little bit away from Jayson Tatum. Other guys we can look at that benefit for me. Immediately I think about Derek White and think about he's going to be getting more shots and more time with the ball. Jaylen Brown naturally is going to get more time with the ball. Want to see him look a little bit better as he continues with the injection he had with his knee. The Celtics, not healthy this time around for the playoffs, and makes me a little bit nervous regarding my original prediction that they're going to win the NBA championship, because they can't do that if both Brown and Tatum are hurt, especially Tatum. So we'll have to see if Jayson Tatum ends up playing. We're really unsure. And it's a very big-time toss-up. Even though it's a doubtful tag, we've seen doubtful players try to give it a go. So until he's officially ruled out, and I continue looking at any kind of injury update I can find to see if he was ruled out, and he has not been ruled out just yet. So if he can play out there, it's almost better probably just to have him on the court if you're Boston, to continue to moving the ball around like they have been so successfully. So because Jayson Tatum's such a big name, it really does kind of make us wonder, well, who from Boston can we look at? And for me, well, let's back it up a little bit. Orlando and Boston. Boston has given up boards. And I woke up and I've been debating Paolo Banchero. And it would impact my decision a little bit more, especially with his rebound prop being juiced up, if Jayson Tatum was in versus Jayson Tatum being out. Because let's say it's Al Horford that ends up replacing Jayson Tatum in the starting lineup, or he ends up being there on the low block. That's going to make it kind of tough for Paolo Banchero, even though he has the speed and the strength, still not the size advantage. That will make it kind of tough for him to grab rebounds. So that's why I'm really on the fence about this. I'm hoping the odds drop a little bit, some people go away from it, because if I'm going after Orlando props, that's where I'm starting to look out right there. And when it comes to DFS, not too many people we can really look to trust. It's just tough because Cole Anthony is so up and down with his scoring. And when he's missing his first few shots, he'll just start passing the ball off. He won't continue to take shots, and shooters need to shoot to get that touch sometimes. And beyond Banchero and Franz Wagner, it's really hard to trust a lot of these guys. For DFS tonight, I'll say this, if you're looking for a value play, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope does not have a big ceiling, but if you need someone to get you 4 to 5X who's cheap as hell, should be drawing a few more shots too. They need his defense, so they're stuck with him. He's kind of like a Dorian Finney-Smith type, just someone who could get you to that 4 to 5X on that value. And that's all you need sometimes. There are only so many directions we can go with these lineups, and there are not a lot of attractive, really low-priced options. At least you know with him, he can hit you a few shots, and if he's hitting a few threes, maybe he takes a few more shots. They don't have a reliable go-to guard scorer. It's literally Banchero and Wagner, and then whoever else can create a spark, and that's a little bit of a problem with Orlando. And Orlando wouldn't be in this situation if they had a healthy Jalen Suggs. That helps them right there. So with Orlando, and you're planning on this for DFS, really it's those three that I'm interested in. A lot of people are asking me about Wendell Carter. And Wendell Carter is someone who's just so frustrating because he should be more involved, but he's not on the offensive side. And when he is, he often, as we've seen in recent games, lets down. When he's scoring, he's not rebounding. When he's rebounding, he's not scoring. Maybe we look at Boston a little bit more if Tatum is out to see what Carter can do on the glass. Carter has actually averaged 8 rebounds per game against the Celtics, and he had 13 last game. And I think that they'll stay committed to him to 25 to 30 minutes. So he's not anything to write home about. I feel like I'd like him a lot better if Porzingis wasn't in over Tatum. Then I'd maybe look at Carter a little bit more, thinking his shots from a little bit outside the paint wouldn't have as many hands in his face or wouldn't have Porzingis just watching him. So that's where with Wendell Carter, if you're going to be looking at him, you're relying on him grabbing boards once again, which we've seen teams do against Boston. So that's really what my hope is for this team, because outside of that, if you're going to rely on anybody else on this team, you could look at Cole Anthony, but you just don't know how many shots he's going to take. And we've got a few situations like that tonight. This is a big break for Orlando if Jayson Tatum doesn't play, because they couldn't get away Boston for a little bit. Orlando's got that good defense. They wouldn't be in this spot if the team was somewhat healthy for part of the year. And Orlando plays very good defense. And this series, I'm feeling like Orlando is going to take at least a game at home, because Orlando nails at home, excellent home team. So with Orlando being at home next game, I mean, this game, a lot of pressure on it. No Jayson Tatum. That defense shuts down Jaylen Brown. All of a sudden, it becomes a series where I thought that Boston would take advantage and take control of this series. But Orlando's defense, very strong. They have a lot of big guys that they could throw at you, guys that they could sacrifice their bodies. Jonathan Isaac is a bit of offense on him. He's always an offensive threat, but he's part of that list of players that just can't stay healthy when you extend his role. You need him to play 15, 20 minutes. He could get you there. He could play you 15, 18 minutes and be fine with it and be fully comfortable. So tonight's going to be interesting, and that's where we're kind of in a standstill, and I'm very interested to get Armando Marsal's take on how he's planning with Jayson Tatum still not being ruled out, but being listed as doubtful. And for a playoff game, to me, I still view him as questionable. And I still actually view him like he's probably going to play tonight, and I'm not going to use him. There are going to be some GPP-like players that are going to try to find the lightning in the bottle. But if he is really that impacted by this wrist, then that's going to alter his shot. You can still maybe grab some rebounds. It just makes things very, very confusing. And you'll likely see me move players out of that article. And that's something that you got to make sure that you're doing. Make sure you're refreshing the article, because we do have a very big, impactful injury on the line here. And if he ends up playing, that does take the play away from, in my opinion, guys like Peyton Pritchard and Drew Holiday. It makes me still into a guy like Jaylen Brown and even Derek White to an extent. But guys like Drew Holiday, who they need his defense anyway, he becomes more of a unsafe play. But if Jayson Tatum sits tonight, I do like him, and they need his defense desperately there. Looking at some of the other games tonight here, let's talk about Miami and Cleveland, because I think the Heat are well coached. The problem with the Heat, you give this team a lead, they just can't keep it. They fumble the ball. And going up against Cleveland, let's not forget that Cleveland plays at a very nice, quick pace, and that benefits Miami big time. And one of the things that we saw was the lack of impact of Kel'el Ware. And it makes me wonder if Jared Allen is just too big of a guy and too physical for him to be able to find the rhythm. And that's going to mean more plays for Bam Adebayo at the elbow. So for tonight, my strategy, I'm not really looking at Ware as much. Doesn't really have good numbers against Cleveland anyway. Cleveland allows a lot of rebounds, and it was kind of scary not seeing him make an impact on the glass. At that point, I'd rather commit fully to the Heat and go with Bam Adebayo. He and Tyler Hero are really they're two of three trustworthy options that I'm looking at tonight against Cleveland, because Cleveland does have good perimeter and wing defenders. And that's going to keep Andrew Wiggins working very hard to find a good shot, especially when DeAndre Hunter is on him. And as for some of the other guys that they have, you can't really rely on a lot of their offensive weapons that they have. But somebody that does have a little bit of pace-changing personality attached to him is Davion Mitchell. And at one point, if you remember during the season, we were really relying on Tyler Hero. His assists were hanging there at 5.5, and it was glorious. It was awesome. I felt like we were hitting so much, but that's changed. I mean, let's look at his last number of games. I'm going to read you his assist stat line over the last month. Okay, this is over the last month, exactly 1 month. Assists from March 23rd to now. 3, 7, 4, 7, 5, 9, 4, 2, 4, 4, 4, 7, 2. A lot of fours right there. And when I looked up the stats and went a little bit deeper in the research, because all of a sudden he wasn't coming close to hitting the mark. And now it's like, is it a good advantage if I'm playing a really juiced up 5.5, if it's back there again against a team that does give up a lot of assists to opponents, but he's not having a lot of those potentials. His potentials were going down. And now if you look at Davion Mitchell during that same stretch of time, I mean, check this out. It's night and day. This is the exact same time period from March 23rd to now. 7, 7, 6, 8, 7, 7, 5, 9, 8, 3, 8, 9, 5, 9. It seems pretty obvious at this point who is in more control of the offense. And I don't blame Miami because Cleveland has a very strong offense. And they need Tyler Hero not involving himself as much in setting up others and him finding himself at an open spot. And something else that I think that the Heat need to do a little bit more of, and that's not rely on Tyler Hero for three-point shooting. Tyler Hero is an excellent shooter, but have this guy go inside a little bit more. Break up Cleveland's defense. It's possible. That's why I kind of liked it. I didn't think Miami was going to be Cleveland in a series, but I thought Miami, because they're well coached, because they've got good defensive guys, they've got a bigger lineup, I thought that they might be able to push Cleveland around a bit, and let's see if they can. Let's absolutely see if they can. But Davion Mitchell, when you're talking about someone who's a value play on this slate tonight, Davion Mitchell, he's one of the best. He's at 5K on DK. We've seen this guy in double figures in scoring in literally, I'm seeing 8 of his last 9 games. He's getting the shot volume. He's doing a lot with it. Pace up spot for Miami. Davion Mitchell has averaged just like 8.6 points per game, but he's going to be taking more shots here. He has averaged nearly 5 dimes per game against Cleveland. And Cleveland is a team that throughout the year, even though they fly a little bit under the radar, they were really giving up a lot of assists. Now they kind of are a middle of the road team, but we still can't forget that they are going to get got in the lane sometimes because Bam Adebayo is a more developed version at this point of Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley on both sides of the ball has to learn a little bit more about how to take the big man and shut him down. Here's what you do. When he gets the ball immediately, you get up on him. You get up. You anticipate the screen. You make the big man work. You make him then go around the screen. Somebody else steps up. And it's Bam. He's a good passer, so you're going to get burnt on the low block a few times. But most likely, or more likely than not, he's going to have to pass back out to one of the guards that's hanging there about 5 to 7 feet beyond the arc. Off the ball. What you could do with Bam Adebayo, because Kel'el Ware, he can stretch the floor a little bit, but he's more limited offensively. I keep him in the corner. You keep baby Bam in the corner at all times. I think and that's not going to be easy for him to do. And at times as well, to keep him out of the post on defense, Mobley's going to have to sacrifice some production. Okay, make Bam the priority if you're Cleveland on both sides of the ball. Bam, though, is in a good spot because Cleveland just gives up. I don't know how this happens. For as skilled as Cleveland is, they give up so many rebounds to big men. I don't understand it. And then I see what I saw in game 1, and that's Jared Allen play very aggressively. Why is he not keeping the Heat overall? And why aren't they keeping teams off the glass that much after what I saw in game 1? Maybe they turned it up in the playoffs. Maybe they told Jared Allen, hey, man, you're going to get your give and goes under the basket, but you make sure you're sending players away too and keeping them away from that low block. And the Heat are going to continue to go big, and now they're a little bit healthier with Jovic back. So they're going to find ways to utilize their size in this series, especially some of their more speedy options. So that's where, by the way, Davion Mitchell, when he's with the second unit, and you've got even a Wiggins or a Hero off the floor, that's going to be gold for him because then he's going to take some shots on his own too. Because what's going to happen is when you've got one of those guys out with Bam, Bam's going to start playing in the post a little bit more. That's going to take the Cleveland defense away from the perimeter and shift them back into the post, which is great because Davion Mitchell, if you look to see what he's done, he's a 41% three-point shooter. And with him being as awesome of a shooter as he is, he wants that defense to fade back and to have him shooting open threes. They're more focused on preparing for the Duncan Robinsons of the world off the ball. No. This guy will bring it up and pull up. Absolutely. So I think that he's very much in play as a value play. On the other side, and this is a player that if you were hanging with us at fantasyguru.com, you would see that there's a correlation to if Garland or Donovan Mitchell are out, Ty Jerome ends up turning up his production a notch. Even if he comes off the bench, it doesn't matter. They give this guy more responsibility. But I think when it comes to that second unit of Miami, the speed that they possess, Davion Mitchell, Ty Jerome is a good guy to throw at them to kind of cancel out that second unit production. I mean, he's not going to be having these types of scoring games that we saw down the stretch. But, I mean, we have to acknowledge the fact that he's been a 20-plus point scorer in 4 of his last 5 games. In fact, and I know that he got a little bit more run because Cleveland was up a little bit at the end, but Ty Jerome scored 28 points, and he grabbed 5 rebounds. That's the big thing, too. Miami, let's not forget this, and this is where we might be able to sneak a few proppies here when it comes to low rebounding, which you know I like very, very much. I love the guards who rebound. Great for props. They're at 3.5. They're at 4.5. Miami, while they've got the size, they don't have the rebounding skill set that some of these other teams have. Now, Cleveland allows a lot of rebounds, especially to bigs, but Miami is just not a great rebounding team, especially in their backcourt. And that's where maybe if we find a little cheapie with Jerome or Garland, we've hit a few bets of him going over 3.5. It's a sweat. We've hit Mitchell a few times with his rebounds plus assists. That's an area we can look at tonight against Miami, despite the pace being slowed down. So when it comes to playoff betting, let me talk about this for a few minutes. I don't cancel out any option that isn't playing 20 minutes. If it's a reserve that's playing 20-plus minutes, to me, 20 minutes per game is the standard. And this is my own standard, and I've done content now in the fantasy basketball space for 15 years. And 20 minutes per game is a true rotation commitment, at least to me. And so that includes the playoffs. That includes when I see someone like a Ty Jerome playing 25 minutes and probably will end up playing 20 minutes even in a close game. That's someone that we can rely on a little bit more for props, for betting, for DFS. In the playoffs especially, you're part of the rotation. Things are going bad with the starters. That coach is going to likely go to the second unit and see if there's a spark before prioritizing the starters again. We've seen it a bunch. We've already seen it. And that's why there are, and I hear Jeff Mans talk about this on Elite Sports a lot, that now we can start going after those star players again. We absolutely can. Those minutes will be there. I'd be careful with some of these series. And when I say star players, I'm talking about betting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander props in this series against Memphis, where Memphis can barely stay in the game and they're going to limit him as much as possible, and the books are going to make you pay for it. They may lower it, whether it's his PRAs or his points, or they may lower it by 1 or 2 to entice you. But it's a very hard, even in a healthy game environment, an unhealthy series environment can cost us money and losing bets. I tried, guys. I tried. In game 1, I freaking tried. I put down those rebounding props lower than I had all season long. I believe it was Bane to get 4 rebounds, SGA 4 rebounds, Ja Morant 3 rebounds. Knowing that it was a double-digit spread, thinking that both teams will be able to take advantage of boards in the backcourt, I barely got any playing time, and I still nearly cashed that parlay that I put out. Morant hit his end of the prop. He hit his leg. I believe Bane was 1 rebound off, and he only played 25, 26 minutes. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played like 23 minutes, and he was 1 rebound off. And that was it. That just shows right there that if we had a little bit of a closer series, then we'd be able to bet these lower props probably straight up. But until we see that, it's hard for me to go after some of those superstars in their major categories. The Milwaukee, Indiana game, and this was a bet that I regret that I didn't write up because it just seemed like it made sense. Tyrese Halliburton is somebody that produces a lot of assists, and Milwaukee gives up a lot of assists, and they play very fast. And for some reason, I decided to write up and go, and this is story of my life. I decide to handle things the hard way rather than, I don't want to say the easier way, but the more sensible way. I talked about the rebounds and assist prop for Tyrese Halliburton in my write-up for his rebounds. But when I saw that rebound prop, I knew it was juiced up. I knew a lot of you weren't going to like it because it's juiced up. You could always raise the unit that you're betting, and then you'll get your return that you want. But I gave you guys an option, and I said, look, I was also looking at his rebounds plus assists, and it worked out. And it's, the numbers are looking right. If I'm thinking he's going to be grabbing 4 rebounds, I could see 11 assists out of it. That would bring us over the 14.5. Ends up doing it, ends up grabbing 5 rebounds. And that's why minus 140, I really don't go beyond that with betting ever. But when I saw that FanDuel was giving us a gift in that series against Milwaukee, who bleeds rebounds to guards, and even looking at Halliburton's stats versus Milwaukee and the potential rebounds, it just all added up. And I was feeling good when he had 2 right away. So that's what's going on right now. That's a little bit of a strategy there. You can still look at some of those other players that aren't starters, that aren't top end of the rotation guys. But as long as they're playing 20 minutes a game, that to me is a true rotation commitment. Let's bring on our guest. Speaking of commitment, this guy is always committed. We bring him on twice a week on Fantasy Sports Daily to talk football with Ray and then basketball with me. It's our guy from fantasyguru.com, Armando Marsal. What's going on, Armando? Nice jersey.
How's it going, Fensty? Thank you, man. In spirit of NBA playoffs, man, I had to wear it. I'll be wearing some Dolphin stuff tomorrow for the NFL draft, but today we're all about the Miami Heat, about tonight's basketball slate, and we'll talk some football today too. But yeah, man, I'm happy
absolutely.
to be here as always.
Thanks, man. I got my jersey on right here. I got my Shaq Orlando Magic jersey because, look, I mean, we don't know if Jayson Tatum's going to play, but if he doesn't play, this is Orlando's one shot to really keep this series a competitive series. So I'm hoping more basketball, the better. So I'm hoping that's the case, man. But before I ask you about Jayson Tatum, I want to ask you about the NFL draft and our draft coverage that we have. What is coming up on the site over the next few days for all the Elite Mafia and maybe even future new members of the Elite Mafia to enjoy with football coming back to life?
Yeah, so last night, Tyler Beaker, Russell Clay, and myself, we did a mock draft on the Roster Coach live stream. You could catch that replay over on the site. We did the entire first round with our thoughts on who's going to get picked. I saw Jeff Mance also posted his mock draft this morning, so you can find that on the site. We got player profiles still ramping up all the way through tomorrow. We'll be posting player profiles, so keep an eye out for those. I'll be posting a couple between tonight and tomorrow as well. We got the live stream tomorrow from 8 p.m. until midnight. We're going to be rocking and rolling there, talking about the first round. We're going to be going pick by pick, reactions. We're going to have guests on. We're going to have people on kind of chatting with us. And that's what we got. We got a lot of NFL content. And then right around the corner, we have our draft, our NFL draft guide that we have every year. That's not too far. We got a ton of stuff always, Fensty, there that you can check out at fantasyguru.com.
Right. With that, I mean, you got all of that content out there, and the guys on their roster live stream coaches that they do, they keep you up to date. They keep you informed. All of our writers, fantasy football will be here before you know it. And in future shows, I will be starting to talk more football as we get closer to fantasy here. With that in mind here, just talking about the NBA slate and with talking about football in general, Armando, let me just ask you, man, because it's obvious that Cam Ward, the Titans, that is a marriage that is going to happen tomorrow night. What are your expectations for Ward early on? Will we see based on his skill set? I know we have to see who he ends up having around him, but is this guy going to make a fantasy splash instantly?
I don't think he's going to make a fantasy splash immediately. I do think that there is potential long-term here. I do think that there could be some growing pains. You look at, I'm projecting him to go number 1 overall to the Titans. But when you look at the supporting cast there, I think they're a couple pieces away from really having a really strong foundation there. Do I think he's going to be, and Tyler said the best yesterday, and I'm going to kind of quote him here. He's going to be a floor play, and you're not really going to see his ceiling early on, at least many times, or his upside many times. I think this is more of a long-term play than it is a short-term play from a fantasy standpoint.
What about Ashton Jeanty? Where do you think we're going to end up seeing him? That's been someone who's been talked about among fantasy circles. I know those in rookie drafts are ready to go. They're champing at the bit for him. Where do you think he ends up? But where also do you think would be the best fit for him?
I think he ends up with the Raiders. I know that he's been linked to the Jaguars here at number 5. When you look at the Jaguars and when you look at what they have and their team needs, yes, it's very tempting to take a player like Jeanty there because of what he brings to the table. But you have, 2 running backs you could use there that you don't really need to take Jeanty. You can upgrade the offensive line, protect your quarterback. I think that's a little bit more important than getting that kind of, a running back like Jeanty here if I'm the Jaguars. So I do think he ends up in the Raiders at number 6. I think that's a good spot for him. I look at the Raiders and they're going to utilize him from a fantasy standpoint. Yeah, they might not have the best offensive line, but this is something they can also continue to improve there. But you look at this offense now, you have, Brock Bowers at tight end, one of the younger, best tight ends in football right now. We saw what he did last year. Now you got Jeanty, you got Geno Smith, a veteran quarterback, a new coaching system here. I think they'll utilize him. I think the usage will be there. I think he'll be in contention for top 12 running back if he lands with the Raiders, simply out of volume. So I think it'll be a good landing spot. Obviously, there's always better landing spots, when you're looking at teams across the NFL, but realistically, he probably won't end up on some of those teams. So I think this is a good spot for him, and I think that's where he will.
He ends up with the Raiders. You taking him in the potentially late 3rd, early 4th round of fantasy drafts?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would view him as the top 12, but you can make a strong case for maybe top 10 running back in fantasy. Yeah.
I'm just impressed by that, man. I'm just very impressed. Dude, maybe you can tell me if I'm stupid or not for this, but I have such a bias against rookie running backs that get drafted, fantasy drafts, in the 3rd round even, or the 2nd round, man. I just get so nervous. Even Harrison, like Marvin Harrison Jr. there last year, even on the rookie wide receiver side, just seeing him go at like 17, just alone turned me off to him. How do you feel about investing such a high draft pick? Maybe that's not going to be Jeanty, but from the way you're talking about his ceiling, maybe he is a 2nd to 3rd round pick.
I think it really depends on I wasn't comfortable taking Marvin Harrison Jr. last year where he was going. Not saying that I predicted that he was going to be, underwhelmed as much as he did. I expected him to have a better season. I was just not willing to invest where he was going in. Now, when you look at a running back like Jeanty here, you're looking at Pete Carroll's the new head coach there, right? We kind of know his philosophy. He likes to run the football. There's really no threat there when you look at the rest of this backfield as to who's going to take away any opportunities from the rookie. The only thing that usually keeps these young running backs off the field at times is pass protection. And I'm not concerned about that with Jeanty. I'm not. He checks off every single box, right? Like he's going to be an every down back in the NFL. Barring any injuries or whatnot, he's going to be an every down back in the NFL. And I'm just looking at that. So with the fact that there's no competition, you got a head coach of Pete Carroll. What we saw when in Seattle, his time there, where they were a run heavy team. I think we're going to see that here. I think that's their guy. It's a perfect fit here for everything. So I'm expecting 300 opportunities for him right off the bat. This is including rush attempts and targets.
Wow. Excited. You're getting me excited for my fantasy football drafts at auctions already, Armando. That's the impact that you make. But you do have that Heat jersey on, man. Let's just talk about this as a whole here. I mean, are you giving your Heat any chance whatsoever to at least extend this series to 6 games? Because I'm seeing for this series, doesn't matter who wins, for this series to go 6 games, it's at plus 500, even 5 games at plus 180 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I kind of want to bet the 5 games. Miami is well coached, man. They don't have Jimmy anymore. They're well coached, okay? And I'm convinced of that. And I'm convinced that a good game they can have, even if it's one to slice away Cleveland. What do you think about Miami? What do you think their chances are of being able to compete?
I think it's tough. I think Cleveland is far superior than Miami right now. It's obvious. You see it. Their size is tough for Miami. You just got some really good guards there as well. It's just the roster, the depth. It's so much better right now than Miami. What keeps Miami in in contention, right? Like it's you said, it's coaching. Spoelstra has done wonders with what he gets at times, and I'm not saying Miami's roster is not good, but he does wonders with what he gets, and I think that because of that, I like the plus 180. I don't think they have a shot to go to 6, but this is the way I would do it. I would take the plus 180, right? And if you get there, you're playing with house money. If you take, the 6, right, at plus 500, I don't mind doing that. Like taking a shot at both. I think it'll even be tough to get to 5, but I do think Miami can sneak one in this series to make it 5. So given that you're getting plus money, I would take it. And then I would just kind of a little bit less at the plus 500, right? Let's say, and I'm just doing random numbers. Let's say you do $50 at the plus 180, then maybe like 25 at the plus 500. Like, right. a smaller, that way you're just playing with house money. And if it doesn't get there, you don't really lose money. You just kind of break even, I guess.
Yeah, I see this. I just see Miami. And if you're going to bet it, you're going to bet it now because the odds are going to change drastically after tonight. And if you're going to take, again, and this is why and look, Armando, I have a lot of friends that are from Florida, including you. I have a lot of friends that are Heat fans and pessimistic about the team because we've seen them blow so many leads. They just can't keep a lead. I wrote them up to win in money straight up in their playing tournament game, and it was looking good. And then they blew the lead. And, in the fourth quarter, it became a pick 'em anyone's game, but they're well coached. Like we said, I got to ask you, man, outside of Bam and Tyler Hero, the only player I'm trusting for DFS tonight that is going to be in my write-up from this team is actually someone who might even be in my core 4 because of his value. Davion Mitchell is a dog, man. This guy, not afraid of a shot. He's an excellent outside shooter. In general, he's a 48% shooter, but we've seen this guy take command of this offense even more down the stretch than Tyler Hero, and he's 5K on DK.
Way too cheap. Way too cheap. I just like you said, he plays hard, right? You watch it play, he's playing hard. He reminds me of when Gabe Vincent was here. He's kind of playing that role, right?
Good comp.
That is what he's doing. He's not a superstar or whatnot, but man, he has elevated his game, right? When it means most. At 5K, you're going to get 35 minutes, I think. 35 minutes is what you're getting. That's his floor here. I find it difficult not to be invested in him tonight. And I agree with you. It's him, Hero, Bam, and that's about it for me.
Yeah,
if you're looking for really, really good value, I was looking at it, and I don't know where you stand, but someone like Haywood Smith is going to be on the court a lot because of his defense. So, if you're looking for 27 to 30 minutes at 3,700, I'm okay with that. He played 30 minutes last game, finished with 7.6 boards, gave you close to 20 DK points. You're getting 5x. You could potentially get 5x here at 3,700. If you're looking for a very cheap option, he's someone that kind of grades out pretty well for me tonight.
Yeah, and for those as well that think it's going to be a 15-point game, 15 to 20-point game, you're going to be seeing more of Highsmith on the floor. At least he'll be able to rebound. Cleveland, I was talking about this before. They give up a lot of rebounds to bigs, man. They did, and I tried to actually alt-line parlay that game last time around, alting down both Bam and Ware, but Ware just got eaten up for lunch, man. And I think Jared Allen, because if you look at Ware's stats versus the Heat, Jared Allen has this guy figured out. So I'm not going near there. I don't care how cheap Ware is. If Ware goes off for 6X and I don't have him in the write-up, I'm not going to lose any sleep tonight when it comes to that. So so Highsmith, as cheap as he is, I'm with you right there. How do you feel on the other side about Ty Jerome? Is it just, are we going to see him play more if the Cavs are up 18 to 20, or if it's a 10-point game, we could still see this guy? Because an impact scorer. That's really what he's been over the last few weeks.
I'm okay with him at his price. Like, where do you have, as far as minutes are concerned, you could think about 24 minutes.
I'm fine with that. I almost, dude, if you're guaranteeing me 24 minutes from this guy, I might core him and then just go with two mad expensive guys. I might literally core both. Like, he could do a lot in 24 minutes.
Well, this is, so I'm going back. I'm pulling it up here. So I'm going back to February 1st, man. He's cleared 20 minutes in a high percentage of his games. Like if you, and I'm going back now, since March 25th, he's cleared 20 minutes in every game. He hasn't played fewer than 19 minutes in any game since March 14th.
Yeah. Being healthy, Donovan Mitchell being healthy scares me a little bit.
Yes,
because
yes.
We talked about this, Armando, on the stream a bunch. The cheat code for Cleveland was if one of Garland or Mitchell were out, Jerome to the moon. And but because this game is a big spread on it, and because it's Cleveland, and we know how good Cleveland is, Cleveland, let's not just call them a great offense. They also play really good defense. Kenny Atkinson has done a great job. But because of that, it makes me still into Ty Jerome. If you're thinking 25 minutes, if he plays 25, 28, he will clear value.
I think his floor is 20 minutes tonight, and he's averaging over a fantasy point per minute here. He's averaging 1.44 fantasy points per minute. So like 4,300, not really it's not a big investment. The chances of getting 5x here are very high. He's a floor play that gives you some upside. I think he's a very strong play. I think if you go with him and Mitchell as two core options, you're able now to really pay up for whoever you want really on this slate. So it really depends on who you want to pay up for. But I think it gives you a lot of options. I think you could even pay up for multiple people if you kind of take that approach, and you don't have to go as low as Highsmith. Like, I feel like Jerome gives you a far safer floor and even more upside than Highsmith, and you're only paying 600 more on DK.
Bro, imagine this core. Let me just put this together with you. Imagine this core four. They're just thinking about it. Those two, so Davion Mitchell and Ty Jerome, and then the other two options being Alperen Şengün, who is a 5x machine for a 5x return against the Warriors this year. And he's the one guy who looks like he could do damage against the Warriors from what we've seen throughout the year. And then we can have Paolo Banchero in there, especially if Jayson Tatum is out tonight. I mean, I like Paolo Banchero regardless, but if Jayson Tatum is out, I don't care. I'm getting him in as my top pay up.
Yeah, Banchero grades out very well for me here this evening. He's one of my favorite pay up guys when you're looking at this slate. So yeah, I think him. You can make a case for Butler. Like, you could pay up for multiple guys, and then there's not. You're not even talking about there's other value. I'm looking at it right now. Like Jared Allen, he is 5,900. Like, that's not too expensive. It's not like you're breaking the bank with someone like Jared Allen. So like, you could easily fit in a handful of sub 6K players and then get yourself 2-3 nice pay up guys and not really be punting on this slate. So yeah, I think Banchero is a good option. I like the Şengün call. I think that's a massive ceiling. He should be over 9K on DK, and he's not. And for me, whenever he's sub 9K, he makes for a very appealing GPP option with a massive ceiling. So yeah, I'm in on him. I'm in on Butler. I'm in on Banchero. Like, those are probably my three favorite pay up spots tonight. Where are you at with Butler? Are you in on him?
So I'm in on Butler, but here's the thing, and I was going to ask you about the Warriors. I'm in on Butler, but I'm not in on coring Jimmy Butler. And here's why. It's simply, and you might say, forget game environment here, but Amen Thompson is really in your face. And I think that Amen Thompson has a lot of Jimmy Butler-like qualities, and especially on defense, and they slow you down. So I love Curry. I love Butler. But the game environment and with what the Warriors have, because from what I saw last game, the difference to me between these teams, experience, and the Warriors when you were watching them, they just looked like they had their shit together. And the other player, the Rockets were kind of going in all different directions. When they would feed Şengün, that was great. But who else they have that's really coming through for them? So to answer your question the long way, I like Butler. I like Curry. I don't really like any other Warriors besides them and Podziemski, and I just like Podziemski. I love Davion Mitchell. I love Ty Jerome. I like Podziemski, just to give a comparison there. So I'm fine with those guys, but the Warriors are another team, Armando, that I'm staying away from because Houston plays so slow and good defense. They're like quicksand.
Yeah, I look, I agree with that right there. For me, it's just when Butler plays in the playoffs, man, he's just a different player in the postseason.
He's transformed this team, man.
Well,
I would have been convinced. I could not be convinced that any team could beat the Thunder in a 7-game series. And I'm not just saying this because the Warriors are hot going into the playoffs. I'm saying this because the Warriors have been hot since acquiring Jimmy Butler. For some reason, this guy has been the key to a lot of things happening at Golden State. Better offense from Steph Curry, better spots for Steph Curry on offense. He's bringing up the ball. He's helping shut down the elbow. He's sparing Draymond Green a little bit so he doesn't have to overuse himself because guys like Jonathan Kuminga are wussies in the post. So because of that, those two guys are able to be a nice 1-2 punch. Draymond Green is like your contending defensive player of the year now. This guy is the key to everything in Golden State at this point.
He has become that. Yes, he has become that. You're absolutely right. I think this is an interesting game. I probably won't be too invested in the Houston game.
No.
I probably I'm looking at it and I have a few pieces, but not many from this game. I think the one game I'd be most invested. Believe it or not, the one game is the one with the highest spread. It's probably the Cleveland game tonight.
I have 6 players right now in my write-up that I'm going to be submitting in a little bit. I've got 6 players from this Warriors game. I'll give them to you because you know what? You can't even, outside of Şengün, who might actually be a core play because he's able to do what he wants. And let's not forget, it's a nice pace-up spot there for Houston when it comes to the Warriors. So there's that on our side. And they don't have that size that they fully utilize. They'll utilize Green, but they don't really have their big men that they'll really throw out there just to take down Şengün a little bit. So I like Şengün. I like Amen Thompson in a very GPP-minded type of lineup. And I'll say this, he's boring, but he's been getting the job done at 5X. Jabari Smith will be open from downtown. So I don't love Jabari Smith, but he's an option. Those 3 from the Houston and then from the Warriors, Curry, Butler, and Podziemski. That's it. I don't like anybody else in this matchup.
Podziemski would probably be someone I'm going to be highly invested in tonight at his price tag. I like him a lot at that price tag. I think I'm probably going to be very in on Butler. I just, his price tag and his ceiling is just so appealing for me. But I get your concerns. But yeah, I think that list is really good. I do think that list. Did you say Jaylen Green by any chance?
I did not. I'm out. Okay. I'm out. You know what, dude? Not only do we have to rely, I thought for a little bit with him, he was going to be running the offense more. I think I figured it out, man. Houston has to get rid of Fred VanVleet. They got to get rid of Fred VanVleet. He's part of that Zach LaVine grouping of players. I hate to put this guy in there, DeMar DeRozan as well, that skilled players, skilled scorers, skilled ball handlers, not championship contending pieces. And I think that Fred VanVleet, it was good to get him when they did, 2 years ago at this point? Good first year. They've got other pieces that they're going to have to develop. Reed Shepherd. At some point, Reed Shepherd has to be the guy on this team. And you don't need him held down by Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet does not impact this team positively.
No, he does not. It's clear. He's not helping them get to that next stage that they can get to. I think he's holding them back. He's kind of being like an anchor, right? To the team. So I agree. I mean, how about Dylan Brooks as a value piece? He pops for me.
I don't mind that because Dylan Brooks is an enforcer. So if you want, if you need a sacrificial lamb to get Draymond Green teched up and maybe even thrown out, I'm not even joking about that, man. This is reality in the playoffs. If they can get Dylan Brooks, to get Draymond Green to hit him or to push him. That takes a major amount of muscle away from the post, and that might be Houston's only chance. And Dylan Brooks, he's not great at a lot of things, but that he's one of the best in the league at talking trash when he's not even worth a damn.
Yep. And then we never really talked about Boston without Tatum, right? I think that's important for tonight's slate.
Are we going to be without Tatum?
If we are.
Yes.
If we are. I don't know. I don't think he misses. You think he misses?
No, I don't. Jayson Tatum is one of the most competitive players out there. And if he can remain in the game after hurting himself, well, then why can't he play tonight? Yeah, maybe he's not scoring a million points. Maybe we don't go after him for DFS. If he's playing, though, bro, I might just universally stay away from Boston.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to be invested in Boston as well. The only player that kind of, believe it or not, kind of stood out to me is Al Horford. It's just very, like, as a value play. He's cheap enough where you can make a lot of things work, and it gives you a little piece to this game. But again, nothing pops for me from this game.
What about Drew Holiday? Drew Holiday is a solid defender. I think his minutes will be – I know everybody's on Peyton Pritchard, the bandwagon, the award and everything. I just feel like let's say Tatum doesn't play. I almost feel like it's like I'd rather go White and Holiday than go with Brown and Pritchard if I'm really looking. But again, it's a mess, and it's not a great game environment. Orlando plays so slow.
Yeah, it's not a great game environment. This slate is not great. Like, if we're being honest, this is not a great slate. It's a very GPP-ish slate. I expect Tatum's going to play, so I'm not going to probably be too invested in Boston. And it's not the most appealing game. You look at, there's also the fact that, Boston can run away with this one. Like, that's a very high possibility here. It makes it a risky investment this evening.
Yes, it does. No, it absolutely does. And from the Orlando side, by the way, I've got 3 guys from the Orlando side, and that's it. And that's Banchero, who I love. No matter, even if Tatum plays, I love Paolo Banchero. I love the way he's playing right now. Franz Wagner is less attractive, but he's in play. And then the third play, and again, this guy's like an innings eater, a gas guzzler, but he's a great defender, so he's playing 35 minutes. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's like the Dorian Finney-Smith of this slate. You just know he's going to play a lot of minutes. Maybe he gets you to that 5X. But really, Armando, from what we can conclude, despite it being a 12-point spread, the safest game on the slate is Miami-Cleveland. Make that make sense.
It doesn't make sense. So I'm looking at my I have a lineup right now, and I actually am more invested in Golden State than I initially thought I was.
Ooh, we have a taker.
Yeah, I'm taking Pod, Butler, and then I'm running it back with Smith. I had Dylan Brooks in there, but you kind of sold me on Smith, man. Like, I made the change right now while we were live.
They're not going to prioritize them. They're going to be like, okay, hit threes. Keep hitting threes. You won't do anything to drive with the rock. There won't be an easy layup. He's literally out there, and he's a big body, and that's something else. And we're seeing it with some of these other teams that when they've got that true size, and that's why the other night I wasn't surprised when Minnesota was able to take out the Lakers. The Minnesota has a hell of a lot of skilled size. It sucked last night, so credit to the Lakers, but at the same time, that's going to count for something. And Jabari Smith, he can hit shots. He can hit open high percentage shots from certain angles at the arc. And that's why he's not exciting. Like, to me, Davion Mitchell's exciting. He spends a hell of a lot of time with the ball. Ty Jerome off the bench, especially with a double-digit spread, that's exciting to me because Donovan Mitchell isn't 100%. They want to preserve him in Cleveland. I firmly believe that. More control of the game. Mitchell's going to be on the bench. You're going to be seeing Jerome. But then you go to KCP and you go to Jabari Smith and Podziemski, and those guys I like, but I don't love as much as the other guys, the formers that I just mentioned.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and it really depends on your roster construction too, right? Because right now I have 3 guys upwards of 8K in my roster or in my lineup. I'm sorry, and the remainder of the players are between 4 and 5,500. That's kind of where I'm staying hovering, and it's the 2 that I love, like you mentioned, Jerome and Mitchell. For me, those are my priority value plays this evening. And then you got guys like Pod at 5,500, Smith 4,600. I'm basically letting you know my lineup. And then I do have Horford in there right now. That's not set in stone, but I do have Horford in there. That's why I mentioned him. But again, that's not set in stone. But basically, you guys know my lineup as of 12:55 p.m. Eastern time.
I mean, dude, you might as well just write the write-up right there.
No. That's all you, buddy. That's the brain right there. No,
I got it all pretty much done. I've got a couple of synopsises left to go. I've got my players all written in. We pretty much have developed the core on this show. And hey, we're still in Discord. I know a few of you are now kind of more on the betting side than on the DFS side. And by the way, Brian, thank you for hanging out with us. I do agree with you that even though Tatum is right now listed as doubtful, I think Jayson Tatum is playing in this playoff game. And yeah, if Boston's up by 20 points, he might not still be in there like he would want to be in there. That's when Boston might take a little bit of an easy approach on him. But we're still creating lineups. We still have got content that's being written up for DFS, and Armando and I hanging out in the Discord room. We were both in there last night. A couple of you are setting lineups, but hey, we're in there for the hour right until roster lock. We're both in there. We're watching and we're waiting on your questions. So, hey, the content is still flowing. Armando, once again, why don't you tell everybody that's just joining us here what is coming up for you personally on the site?
Yep, we got still player profiles coming live, and we got the NFL draft tomorrow. We'll be covering that 8 p.m. Eastern all the way to midnight with special guests on as we, I react and give our thoughts on every pick of that first round on Thursday night. So you can find all of that. We got other content on the site, mine and Marsal podcast. You can catch me every Tuesday with Ray here, every Wednesday with Fensty, all of that here at fantasyguru.com.
Armando Marsal at Armando_Marsal on X. And make sure you give me a follow at Fensty Sports, FENSTY Sports. I have a new Fensty's Basketball Diaries NBA podcast chapter coming out tomorrow. That'll just be talking about the playoffs, these series where we're at. I'm going to go over some of these odds on DraftKings Sportsbook, by the way, on what I like, because they're all at plus money right now. So we can still, and that's the advantage of betting these series early on, is that we could get them at plus money. So I'm going to be talking about that a lot on tomorrow's show. Remember, Elite Sports Game Time, which is normally 8 p.m. Eastern on Fantasy Sports Radio. We are done for the rest of the week here, as the channel will be doing a lot of football coverage. For Armando Marsal, I'm Justin Fensterman. Ray Flowers will be on with Jeff Bands on Elite Sports on Fantasy Sports Radio today at 3 p.m. Eastern. He'll be back on Fantasy Sports Daily tomorrow, same time, same place, same channel, right here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by FantasyGuru.com.